come to you. And the most important from a private sector's perspective is that we look upon local government to be an enabler. Okay, and they have the biggest tool, as one of my colleagues said, in terms of law and legislation. They can tweak the rules. Now, they always get into a dilemma of, am I tweaking it for a particular business group? But then they have to take a larger objective of, is it ultimately going to help the economy and regenerate the region? And all the cases that I am referring to in the past, and I don't hold brief for most of the other groups, but I'm assuming that even those initiatives and setups have happened because the local governments took a broader perspective. While they changed and tweaked their enabling environment to facilitate a particular development, it proliferated into an innovation. So I think it's very important, and from private sector's perspective, as the issues being raised about lack of infrastructure, lack of capacities, lack of skills, lack of capital, I think those are areas where enterprises have their own ways of achieving success. But what they definitely don't want is a hindrance and an enabling. So that's the broad response to what you asked. Coming to the specific question, and if you are referring to the car plant setup, and I'm not very closely connected with that, but as an Indian I can respond to that. It's a tug of war between a private interest and a public interest. Please be very clear that no private interest is going to invest its money unless it's safe and secured and they have their streams of revenue. While building streams of revenue, if they've been only selfish in building their own revenues, they know for sure they can't succeed. And that's how you see that while one area farmers raise their issues saying we are not willing to let up our land and not allow the development to happen, you saw the other urban local body seizing the opportunity, and today its statistics is factually available that a site lost an opportunity, a region lost an opportunity of getting maybe 100 manufacturing units, rising cost of land, becoming the best, most successful region. And I must tell you that the local body which actually attracted this investment had taken a policy decision of waiving of taxes for 5 years as a cabinet decision, which is open to public scrutiny, and again reinforcing the fact that they did that because the justification was we waived 5,000 crore, the value of tax for 5 years, but in return that's my employment generation.
Just a very, I guess it's more the general question that you made. You know, even though you mentioned vital culture, but the issue that, as you mentioned also, I mean, there's entrepreneurship, and it has always been.
Questions involved, and some of them are really very controversial ones. But let me take up what he's referring to is three-tiered government. You have a national government, as you rightly said, policies like extractions or protection of the local productions, and those things are national policies, and local government really have a very little play in that space. But if you look at what positive role can they play, it's like creating an enabler. And I'm making my personal opinion on how local economies and local governments can actually control MNCs. One is by creating shareholding. There are examples in the world that for the natural resource that was generated in a particular region, you don't know the future value of that mineral. Generally the business happens at the present value and maybe a future value in a foreseeable future. But it's at the end of the day, it's 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, you really realize the potential value. And there are examples where local governments have insisted on creating cooperatives. I hope most of you understand the word cooperatives. There are shareholdings by the local, regional in the profits that they generate. So those are the kinds of regulations that you can always build in to protect those interests. That is what I would actually just respond to that particular question.
Well, there's it's not just that I noticed here. If can I use one of your slides that you presented? You show us a very.
There are corporate guidelines on what are the areas we will work as a part of social responsibility. So there are select areas, there is a process, there is a group which picks up those requirements from the local region and it goes through the process of evaluation. And the whole idea being there should be no conflicts with any of the other interests in the region while we enter into a CSR space.
Just a quick response on that.
Could you make your any other question?
It was about the